Okay, so I wasn't planning to do this, but I need to say something about that year in the Reagan administration. It was sub-political level. I was the senior international economist at the Council of Economic Advisors. And the senior domestic economist was a guy by the name of, what was his name? Larry Summers. I don't know what happened to him. Anyway, so it was very interesting. I think a very valuable experience, partly because you come out of that. I was always the guy behind the table, passing little notes up to my boss. And so you got to see what the actual machinery of government looks like and become alerted to the fact that nobody knows what they're doing. Okay, I have only just a couple of minutes, and I do want to talk about social science, but I want to start this with an embarrassing personal background story. So I was, as a young man, a very geeky guy. I guess I still am, but anyway. I was a science fiction reader, and one of the things I read, loved, was many people have probably read it, the classic Foundation novels by Isaac Asimov, which are in outline about how a group of social scientists, with their understanding of the forces of history, save galactic civilization. So I wanted to be one of those guys. This was as close as I could manage. Economics was as close as I could get to being one of Asimov's psychohistorians, and it falls a little bit short. I'm not even sure that we're managing to save terrestrial civilization, let alone galactic civilization. But I wanted to say a word just about how important and useful social science is in turning out to be. One of the questions that Samantha Power was asked was, how bad do you feel about having failed to foresee Trump? And of course, there's things we failed to foresee. Basically, nobody saw the financial crisis coming. I mean, there are some people who did, but every one of them also foresaw 5 other crises that didn't happen. So and in fact, there's been systematic study at the IMF of how many recessions have been successfully forecast by the economists, and the answer is 0. You never see the crisis. But what is not generally known, and I try to make this point now every once in a while, is that in the aftermath of the financial crisis, we actually had a glorious period, because we came into this, we're not very good at predicting crises. In some sense, that's almost by definition. If it was obvious that a crisis was coming, it wouldn't happen. But we had a framework coming out of 70 years of economic thinking that told us a lot about how an economy would change once it was in a depression state, once it was in a situation of near zero interest rates, high unemployment, and so on. And the predictions that came out of that were stunningly right. The years basically from 2009 to around 2013, were, from an intellectual point of view, an absolute triumph of one particular branch of social science, the one I know about. There are others that I don't know as well, but this was actually wonderful. In some ways, I mean, if you do, we don't get to do experiments in social science very often, and you always wonder a little bit, do I actually know anything? If you have any kind of self-awareness, you sometimes wonder, am I just good at writing stories, or do I actually know anything? But those years actually confirmed that, yeah, actually we do know something. We got it right. Now, that's the good part of the story. The bad part of the story is that, by and large, politicians ignored all of the good advice. Everything that we told them, this is, you should absolutely not be slashing spending in the face of mass unemployment. They went ahead and did that. You should not be obsessing over debt under these conditions. They went and did that. You should not be worrying about inflation from money printing So what we learned was both about the power of social science to produce useful answers, and the power of the political system and conventional wisdom to ignore what you have learned. But social science works, and it wasn't entirely a time frustration. The fact of the matter is that if we did not experience a full replay of the Great Depression, there were a number of reasons for that, but one of them was that I think we knew something. We had learned something, that social science had advanced. If we managed to save our democracy, I think that political scientists will, I'm not sure that we will, but I will say that political scientists will deserve some of the credit because we have learned something about the ways in which democracies can fail. So social science matters, it works. It's never going to be like physics. People are too complicated, and social science is something we always have to remind our graduate students. Social science is actually, you may use some equations and some econometrics, but ultimately it is about people, and people are complicated. But social science is terribly important. I'm so honored to be given membership in this society because social science is one of the most important things there is out there and may, in the end, be our salvation. Thank you.